You suffer because you were born in a world where people don't really love one another, where people are mistreating one another, where people are not free, where people are being used, where people are being treated like slaves. You live in a world where it's hard for you to get the things that you want, and it's supposed to be hard for you to get the things that you want, because if it wasn't hard for you to get the things that you want, you wouldn't be easy to control. You live in a world where you are being controlled. You live in a world where you're not allowed to really live your life the way that you want to live your life. You live in a world where everything is for sale. But you want to know what the biggest cause of your suffering is? The biggest cause of your suffering is not knowing. A lot of people don't really think about how much they do not know about this world. They think they know, you know. Wake up in the morning and you think, yeah, I was born, you know. I have parents. I'm gonna die one day, you know. My body is made out of flesh, you know. I have a brain, you know. Consciousness is generated from my brain. Other people have brains, you know. Other people have their own lives. You think you know, but do you know? Do you know anything at all? Or you know nothing? What if your lack of knowing is so deep that there might actually be something that is true and that is obvious, but that you do not know because of the assumptions that you've made? If you were God, how would you know that you're God? If you were God, how would you know that you're God? If you were God and you lost all your memories, how would you know that you're God? Would you believe that you're God if someone else came to you and told you that, hey, you are God, you just forgot that you're God? Would you believe them? Or you think that they're crazy? If you are God, how would you know that you're God? Would you believe that you're God if you had some superpowers? If you were able to do things that other people cannot do, would you think, well, that means that I'm God? Why would you think that you're God if you do not remember being God? I remember King Laws said something interesting in one of his freestyles. He said, not even, it wasn't his freestyle, it was his song. I think it's called what? Old God or something like that. He said, God doesn't believe that someone created him. That means that he's atheist. Like, if you don't know how you became conscious, you're just conscious, wouldn't you assume that there's a God? If God exists, how do you think he knows that he's God? Does he know that he's God, or is he just assuming that he's God? Because if God exists, it will mean that no one created him. But how will he know that no one created him? If you are God, how would you know that you're God? You know, this question on the surface looks stupid. Like, of course, I would know if I'm God. Like that. I mean, I know that I'm not God. That is obvious. So yeah, if I was God, I would actually know that I'm God. But what if you are God, but you forgot that you're God? I mean, if you were a God, what would you do? Think about it. You are the only conscious thing in the universe, right? There's nobody else. It's just you. What would you do? This is a very profound question. If you are God, what would you do? Would you just be like, okay, I'm the only conscious thing in the universe, and just do nothing? Right? You just chill in the void. What would you do? Wouldn't you create experiences for yourself? And wouldn't you get bored at some point? You know, if you keep on creating experiences for yourself just to keep yourself busy, wouldn't you get bored at some point? And you decide that, what if I can forget that I'm God? What if I can forget that I'm the only conscious thing in the universe and only I exist? What if I can forget that? What if I can have an experience as a limited being who doesn't know that he's God and who thinks that there is a God above him and there are other minds? Wouldn't that be interesting? And if you were to create such worlds, you'd want it to be as convincing as possible, wouldn't you? You'd want that world to be so convincing so that you believe that there are other people with other minds. You were born, you have parents. This world did not exist. I mean, this world existed even before you started existing. You'd want to make your experience so convincing that you actually believe that matter exists, the physical world exists. And you'd want to suffer. Why would you want to suffer? You'd want to suffer because if you did not suffer, maybe you'll think you God. Like, it would be much easier for you to remember that you're God. You see, when you're suffering, it's hard for you to be like, I might have created this. But if it's working out for you, everything is working out for you, you might think, like, why do I have all these things that I want? Why are other people suffering and I'm like the only one, or maybe one of the few people who are not suffering? How did that happen? What if God is on my side? What if the reason why God is on my side is because, well, I am Him, and I've tried to create an experience that is actually, interesting, and that I will enjoy. If you are God, tell me, what would you do? I know what you think. You'll be like, well, I'll create an experience that's enjoyable. I'll create a world where there's no suffering, where I wouldn't suffer. But wouldn't you get bored at some point? I mean, when you're playing a game, do you want it to be easy or do you want it to be hard? Of course, in the beginning, you want it to be easy, right? You'd want to be able to do whatever that you want, You want it to be easy, but once you've played it long enough, it gets boring. And you're like, I want it to be a bit harder, I'm not saying you're God. What I'm asking you is, what if you were God and you forgot that you're God? I'm not saying that you're God. This world really does suck. There are a lot of things that are happening that makes it hard to believe that what I'm saying might be possible. Like, we really do suffer, we really go through hell here. You ask yourself, why would I create such an experience for myself? Every time when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself this question: what if I'm not God? I mean, what if I'm God? Not what if I'm not God. What if I'm God? And I don't know that I'm God. The reason why I ask myself this question is because I dream every time when I sleep. I dream. And when I wake up from my dreams, I often ask myself, why do I not realize that I was dreaming? I mean, yes, there have been dreams where I actually did realize that I was dreaming, but I didn't realize that I was dreaming on this level. Like, you are having a dream where you think you are dreaming, but you thinking that you are dreaming, it's still, yeah, like you know, let me say, you have a dream where you know that you're dreaming, but your knowing, it's still limited by the dream. It's like you know, but you don't really know, you know. That's how I will explain lucid dreaming, because though people will be like, yeah, when I'm dreaming, sometimes I know that I'm dreaming. Like, yeah, if you really knew that you're dreaming, you'd wake up. It's like you know, but you're dreaming that you know. It's not like you know, like you're just dreaming that you know that you're dreaming. I've had those kind of dreams where I'm like, yeah, I'm in a dream, but I didn't like really know on this level that I'm in a dream. I was just having a dream where I knew that I'm in a dream, but that was part of the dream, you see. So I didn't really know that I was dreaming. If I really knew that I was dreaming, I would wake up. In every dream where I really get to know that I'm dreaming, I actually wake up. Like, for real, I actually wake up. The moment I realize that I'm dreaming, something happened, like, and then I wake up. You know what I mean? It's like a kick, like, and then I wake up. Like, once I realize, I remember I told you about this experience that I've had a couple of times, where my body will start to vibrate and I'll start to remember things. I would feel like I'm waking up. The way that it feels like when you're waking up from a dream, but because I think this reality has been like very persistent, to wake up from this reality is not going to be easy. You're not just going to wake up the same way that you wake up from a dream. I mean, you're going to wake up the same way that you wake up from a dream, but the process is going to be a bit longer. So, yeah, when I'm having this experience, I feel like I'm waking up for real. Like, I literally feel like I'm waking up. I would start to remember things. But I will decide that, let me not wake up. And the reason why I will decide that I don't want to wake up is because I will start to remember that I can wake up at any time. Like, I can literally wake up at any time. But why now? Why don't I try to figure things out when I'm stuck here? Because think about it, you can always wake up, right? And you know that. You can make up excuses like, oh, I can't wake up because I want to. Like, and actually, you can wake up. If you want to wake up, you wake up. Am I wrong? If you really wanted to wake up, you'd wake up. There's some part of you that's kind of like, and that's kind of like curious. That's kind of like, okay, what is this? What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen the day after tomorrow? So you'll tell yourself that Now, I actually do want to wake up, but well, the reason why I'm not waking up is because, well, it's not easy to just wake up. You know, you don't just wake up like that. But nah, actually, if you really want something that is actually possible to have, you'll get it. Or you'll actually try to get it. Like if it's possible, if there's something that is more possible than a lot of things that you've got to achieve in this world, is you actually waking up. Because there is no real obstacle in your way, except your own desires, you know, your curiosity, your desire to know, you know. I'm not saying you're God. You know, the reason why I make these videos is because I think there is nothing more important than knowing. And in order to know, you must keep an open mind. You must try to investigate what is going on in this world, right? And if you're going to try to investigate what is really going on in this world, you can't be closed-minded. You must be open-minded. You must be able to ask yourself, what if I'm God? And on this video, I'm asking you that question. What if you're God and you forgot that you're God? I'm not telling you that you're God and you forgot that you're God. I'm saying, what if you're God and you forgot that you're God? And I'm trying to make you see how that could be possible. You suffer because you don't know, not because you know. If you really knew the truth, you wouldn't be suffering. If you really knew what's going on, you wouldn't be suffering. Even if the truth was that you are a slave and this world was created by a false god who wants to trap your soul, yeah. If you knew that for sure, you wouldn't be suffering. Like if you knew that, you had no doubt in your mind that that was the truth. You just knew that that was really the truth. You want to know why you wouldn't be suffering? Is because you will know exactly what you need to do. I was talking to someone about this. This person was telling me that they want to end things because this world is evil and all that. You know, they think that there's this false god that kept us in this simulation, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, let me ask you this question. If there was a false god, right? I'm not saying there isn't, but I also want you to ask yourself this question. And this false god wanted us to suffer. And this false god can do whatever he wants to do to us. Why wouldn't he make us suffer like crazy? Is it not possible that if there is a false god who kept us here, the reason why we're not suffering like crazy is because he's afraid that we might wake up. He might be afraid that we have power. We really do have power. So he must manipulate us. He must make us believe that, well, now in this reality, you know, things are actually good, things are actually fine, you know, we're not in a trap. Because if we realize that we're in a trap, we'll free ourselves. That's why I'm telling you that knowledge is the true is the true power that you can actually have. Like, you must know. Knowledge itself is power. You need to know what is going on. If really there is a false god that kept us here, we are being manipulated, because if we knew the truth, we'll be able to free ourselves. And that God knows that. So you shouldn't be scared. You know, you shouldn't be like, nah, you know, there's this false God that's manipulating me and this. If that is true, you still do have power. You still do have power. You can see that in this reality, the truth is kept secret. You can see that in this reality, whenever you try to figure out what the truth is, people will discourage you. If you realize that. And I always thought that was funny. Like, you try to figure out what the truth is, people will discourage you for real. You try to have deep conversations with people about what's going on, they will act like you're crazy. They'll make you feel like you're crazy. They'll make you feel like there's something wrong with you for asking questions. Like now we're supposed to just, be zombies, walk around, looking for whatever we'll be looking for. But we shouldn't be asking ourselves the deepest questions about this reality. It's like there's a force that doesn't want us to know. Because if we knew, we'll become powerful. That is why I'm not afraid. I think if really there was a demiurge that kept us here, that demiurge is not that powerful. That is why we're being manipulated. That is why we're being kept away from true knowledge, We wouldn't be kept away from real knowledge if really we weren't powerful. Because the truth is, if you are controlling someone, right? Let me just give you this example. If you are controlling someone that is completely powerless, you wouldn't have a problem making you see that you're evil and you can do anything to them. In fact, you'll actually make them know that you are really that powerful and you can do whatever you want to them, so that they will obey you and do what you want them to do. Because manipulating someone takes a lot of energy. Like it's a lot of work, So you rather show them that, hey, I'm powerful. If you don't do what I want, I will punish you for real. You're gonna suffer for real. You would only manipulate them if you knew that, well, if you don't manipulate them, maybe they realize what's going on and they're gonna set themselves free. You see? We're being manipulated now because, well, we can't set ourselves free if we knew what is going on. It's crazy that we're not asking ourselves the biggest questions about life. It's like we're just playing this stupid game. Think about it. Like your president. I don't know that many presidents, but I've never heard a president asking the deepest philosophical questions. What are we doing here? What is really going on? They don't ask those kind of questions. Why? Why are people not encouraged to ask those kind of questions? And those the most important questions. Why are kids not being taught real philosophy? They're not being made to think. They're just being indoctrinated. You can see that we are being manipulated, and there's a reason why we are being manipulated. We're not being manipulated just so that we'll be slaves. Maybe we're not supposed to know our true power. So don't be afraid. No matter what the truth is, I don't think you should be afraid. We will be suffering more than we're suffering if the truth was more horrible than you think it is. You see? I do believe there is a way out. But it has to do with knowledge. It has to do with remembering. You're supposed to know. I think you once knew the truth, but then you forgot. So you're supposed to know. But let's go back to what I was saying. If you were God, you will actually, at some point, create a world like this. If you were the only conscious being, I don't mean if you were God and you had the power to create new conscious beings. Because if you were God and you had the power to create new conscious beings and you created this for them, you'd be evil as fuck. That's why many internationalists are like, whatever created this is evil. That's because why would you create a world like this if you can create a world that's better? Right? Unless you're creating it for yourself. If you are creating it for other beings, why would you create a world like this? If you are creating it for yourself, good. Maybe you want to challenge yourself. No, maybe you thought it would be funny. Maybe when you wake up one day, you laugh. Be like, wow, what the hell was I thinking? Right? But if you created a world like this, and there had to be other conscious beings that have to live in that world, like in this world, like prisoners. Now that would be evil on so many levels. But if you were the only conscious thing in the world and you manifested this, it will be kind of funny, because you will be the only one who's suffering. You will literally be the only one who's suffering, because, well, only you exist. You'll see other people going through hell and you think, that's suffering, but really you will be the only one who is suffering. And the only way that you'd actually be able to free yourself will be through knowledge. You'd need to know that you are God. You need to know that you actually manifested all of this. And one of the best ways to minimize your suffering is by trying to remind yourself. Let's just say one day you actually do realize you God, right? But then kind of like forget. Remember what I was saying about lucid dreams? I was saying that when you are in a lucid dream, you know that you're dreaming, but your knowing isn't enough. It's like you only know that you're dreaming in that dream. You don't know it on the highest level, right? So let's say one day in this reality you actually do remember that you're God, but then forget and only know it in this reality. Like, okay, one day you actually have this experience where you know that you're God, but then forget. That happens when people take psychedelics sometimes. It's like, wow, yeah, I'm God. Or sometimes it happens when people are meditating, you know. Your body starts vibrating and you reach this level of consciousness and you're like, shit, I'm God. But then you fall back into your ego and you remember that actually I did have this weird experience where I was God. But you can't really, you don't really have access to that level of consciousness anymore. But you know, you see. So one of the best ways to minimize your suffering is by trying to remind yourself that actually you are God. I mean, if you've had that experience, like I have, I'm telling you something that I know, something that I've experienced. I have had that experience where I felt like I was God, but then I didn't want to fully remember that I was God. I was like, I kind of get it, but you know what? It is what it is. All I know is that even if I'm wrong, I'm not having children. I'm not bringing anyone else here. And if I'm suffering, it's still fine, because I know that I can exit. I know that I can exit at any time. And I know that I don't necessarily need to exit, the way that people think we exit. I think you can also exit the way that I could have exited. I think you can exit. If you meditate and you reach that state of consciousness, you can actually exit. It's like your ego will dissolve completely and you just be done with this reality. I'm not saying you must believe what I'm saying. You see, what is important is that you try to understand what the truth is. This reality is very confusing, but you can't just pretend as if you know what is going on, or you try to understand this reality on a basic level. There are a lot of things that are going on, so you must try to understand reality on a much deeper level. Because of course you can't understand reality on a basic level. You can see that everything is trying to make sure that you don't understand what is going on. Even when you're dreaming, you're not supposed to know that you're dreaming. Do this next time you dream, if you remember. Do this. Ask the dream characters if you are in a dream. You'll see what they'll tell you. They'll tell you that you're not in the dream. They'll tell you that the world is real. They'll tell you that you're crazy. So it seems like consciousness itself doesn't want your ego to realize something. That is why when you try to have deep conversations with people, they don't seem interested or they don't seem to understand you. That is why when you're trying to search for the truth, you see that no one really encourages you to search for the truth, and you see that it's hidden. That is why when you speak the truth, people ridicule you. People demonize you for speaking the truth. You tell people something that you know is true, something that everyone should be thinking, and people act like you're a demon. Like, what? It's like this whole world is against truth. You're just supposed to just do what everyone else is doing and pretend as if everything is okay, even if nothing is okay. You can see that something isn't right. But what if the world is the way that it is because you're God, but you don't want to remember that you're God? Because it will be lonely being God, wouldn't it be? It will be lonely to just be the only conscious thing, to be the only thing that's ever existed. No one created you. Only your awareness exists, only your mind exists. But you have this ability to dream. You have this ability to dream and forget that you're dreaming. You just have an experience in that dream, not knowing that you're dreaming. Isn't that crazy though? You can literally create any world. You don't have to do anything to create that world. Like, you just dream. That's it. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to like plan anything. Like, you just dream. You can create anything in real time. You're that powerful. You can create a world that seems to exist, but that doesn't really exist. Now, I often tell people that I think consciousness is fundamental. I think the only thing that exists is consciousness. And they don't believe me. Most of the people that I talk to about this, like, nah, that cannot be true. But think about it. How can reality be real? How can matter be real? What you must understand is that if matter is real, if everything that you see is physical, if this is physical, that will mean that time does exist, right? That will mean that it has had to have a beginning. Because nothing can physically exist if it doesn't have a beginning. Try to imagine something that physically exists that does not have a beginning. It doesn't have a beginning. It always existed, but it's something that is physical. And let's say that was possible, that something has always existed and it's something that is physical. How did it manage to create consciousness? How did it manage to create this world full of birds, full of animals, aliens, people? How can something unconscious create something conscious? Does it make more sense to believe that only consciousness can create this? Only consciousness can create something that is unconscious, not the other way around. And only consciousness can exist eternally. Cannot have an end and cannot have a beginning, because nothing physically exists and nothing can create consciousness. Nothing can create awareness. I mean, how does anything create awareness? How is awareness created? What would they need to actually create awareness? Think about it. Elon Musk is able to create robots, right? I mean, him and his team. There's probably people that he's working with that are way smarter than he is, that are able to like really create these things. And that's how it works, yeah. Like when you watch movies and you see people like Dwayne Johnson doing things that are impossible, like, nah, he's not the one that's doing these things. He does have stuntmen that do these things, but no one knows about them. So that's kind of how it works. Elon Musk is just the face. There are people that he works with that are, super intelligent, but they can't do what he does. They can't really be in public and talk about what they do. So he has to be the face. He has to be the CEO. That's how it always worked. But yeah, how does Elon Musk create consciousness? How? I've never heard a scientist talk about creating consciousness. You can't create consciousness. You can create something that mimics consciousness. So consciousness cannot be something that is created, right? Consciousness has to be what comes from. It seems like consciousness can never be unconscious. It's like consciousness is all there is, it's all there has ever been, and it always will experience something. It will always dream. Maybe the only way out is realizing what you really are. Maybe this is the only way to actually minimize your suffering. If you were God and you knew that you were God, would you still suffer? I understand that this reality is absurd. Everything is upside down. But let's just say you were God and you just realize that, well, I am God. Actually, I created all this nonsense. Would you still suffer? And why? Why would you suffer? Don't you suffer because you believe that there are other people with their own minds who are just stupid, doing things that don't make any sense? You always asking yourself, why do they do these things? But really, if you were in a dream and you knew that you're in a dream, you'll understand why all of this is absurd. You'll see people doing things that don't make sense, and you laugh. You'll be like, well, yeah, of course that's what will happen in a dream. Of course that's what will happen in a dream. The problem is that you have already assumed that you know what reality is, and you don't want to keep an open mind, You already assume that you know what reality is. And that is dangerous, by the way, because you're going to suffer like crazy. That is not so different from being very religious. Like, your whole paradigm revolves around God, Jesus, the Bible, Holy Spirit. How are you going to understand anything at all if your whole worldview revolves around that? When you see someone doing something evil, you're going to think, well, it's the devil. is the devil. You're never going to try to understand that, okay, maybe that person suffered a lot when they were young, they've been abused a lot, and it fucked them up. That's why they are the way that they are. You're never going to understand that. You just tell yourself that that person is just evil. If a person is gay, you just tell yourself that, oh, it's demonic spirit. You won't be open to understanding that maybe they were born like that, because, well, people are different. We cannot all be the same. If you find yourself having the things that you want in life, you'll think, well, it's God. It's God. He favored me because I pray. You won't understand that, well, you were just lucky. It does happen that you're lucky. There are people who pray more than you do. There are people who have faith more than you do. There are people who have more faith than you have, and they got nothing. There are people who are doing things that are good in this world and who believe in Jesus. Like that, they're actually doing things that are good in the world. You haven't done anything good for this world, and you believe that God favored you. Nah. I mean, you believing that God favored you would also mean that your God is evil. You would not even be able to understand that. Because think about it. If I was a Christian, let me tell you this, if I was a Christian and I was very successful, I would never talk about my success. I would never thank God publicly for the things that I'll be having, for my cars and all that. You want to know why? Because there will be a lot of people who will not be having these things. But why will I thank God if He gives me the things that I want, but there are people who need, things that, are basic things that everyone needs. Like, they don't even have these things. They don't have shelter. They don't have clothes. And God gave me a Bugatti. Like, nah. Why give me a Bugatti instead of like helping these kids? Maybe that's the only way that they'll actually believe that there is a God. It's if God actually helped them. How do you believe in a God that doesn't help you? How do you believe in a God that does not have a problem with you sleeping in the street every day? You can't believe in that kind of a God, right? I think when you think deeply about this reality, the only thing that makes sense is that, the only thing that makes sense, I'm not saying the only thing that might be true, but the only thing that makes sense is that consciousness is fundamental, and there's only one consciousness, and it manifested this. And all the things that are happening are not real. It's only their consciousness that actually suffer, because, well, there are no other consciousness. It's just only one consciousness. So it manifested this reality because, well, it gets bored sometimes. That would make sense. I wouldn't have a problem with that. If I woke up and realized that I was God and I was the only conscious thing, I wouldn't be mad. I would think, well, that was stupid, but I wouldn't be mad. But if I woke up and realized that I'm not the only conscious thing and there's a God and He put me through this shit, bruh. Because that will mean that I'm not the only one who suffered. Even other people have suffered. The animals, they've suffered. The snakes, elephants, crocodiles, pigs, goats, chickens, they've suffered. How will I look at a God that created conscious beings? Consciousness cannot really be created, but how can I look at a God that trapped conscious beings in this hellish realm? How will I look at a God and be like, wow? I look at a God and be like, how do I stay away from you? Because ain't no way I will understand why you created this mess. There's no way that I'll understand why you created this mess, because, well, there is no good reason to create a mess like this. But if this was a dream, I would totally understand. It's a dream. I'm in a fallen state of consciousness. I was, trying to create a world, whatever, where I would forget that I'm God and just have an experience, and, you know, things didn't really go as planned, I mean, yeah, I didn't remember that I was God, but I suffered a lot. This reminds me of the movie Vanilla Sky starring Tom Cruise. If you haven't watched that movie, I think it's interesting. You should watch it. It's interesting. It's about this guy that just that I've watched it a long time back, but he was rich. He was doing very well. And then one day, one of the women that he was dating became angry at him because he was cheating and he didn't love her anymore. So while they were in a car, she drove that car over a bridge, and then she caused an accident. She died, and his face got disfigured, and he started feeling insecure, and he wanted someone who can like reconstruct his face. And at the time, there wasn't anyone that can reconstruct his face, so he asked to be frozen. So they woke up during the time where there's enough scientists that can actually like do that, and I think they did that, and then they had to put him in a dream. They had to like create dreams for him to they had to keep his body frozen, but then he had to dream. So they created dreams for him. His dreams were supposed to be beautiful, but then something bad happened, and his dreams were horrible. And he had to wake up one day. So one of the guys actually went into his dreams and actually tried to convince him that, hey, bro, you lost in here. You are actually in a dream. So you have to, jump and try to wake up. And he did wake up and realize that, yeah, it was all a dream. The truth is, if this was a dream, you wouldn't really remember what the truth is. It seems like consciousness isn't really capable of remembering the highest truth. What it seemed to do is, it seems like it tried to reconstruct reality from its subconscious. So it's like, what if you remember something that happened in the highest reality, right? What consciousness will actually do is reconstruct it in some way in this life. The same way that when you're dreaming, because, I remember someone commented on a video where I was talking about solipsism and non-duality. They said that it actually makes more sense to actually believe that we're not in a dream, because in a dream, dreams seem to just be made out of what we already know. It will be interesting if we dreamt of things that we don't know. Like, no, actually, it does make sense that we dream of the things that we know, because all the things that we know are within our consciousness. So consciousness itself is trying to reconstruct a world that is convincing from what we know, so that we will be convinced that it's not a dream. Because if it created a world that we do not know, we'll be surprised. We'll be in that world like, what's going on? What is this? We'll be asking a lot of questions, and I think it will be much easier for us to wake up, because we'll be asking a lot of questions. But if it creates a world that you already know, if it creates a world where I have this device, this DJI Pocket 2 thing, and I had my cell phone, and there were trees, you know what I mean? Like, it won't be easy for me to realize that, no, something isn't right. This is not the world that I know, because consciousness has created a world that is actually familiar, you see? I mean, don't you ask yourself why, when you're dreaming, you don't feel like you're dreaming? And in your dream, matter really does exist. Physical objects really do exist in your dreams. You can hold, like, there isn't anything that happens in this world that doesn't happen in your dream. Doesn't that make you suspicious? Anything that is possible in this reality is actually possible in your dream. And there are things that are possible in your dreams that are not possible in this reality. Doesn't that make you suspicious? Like, everything that is possible here is possible in your dreams. But in your dreams, there are also things that are not possible in this reality that are possible in some of your dreams, not in all your dreams, but in some of your dreams. And you say, it doesn't make sense that this could be a dream. Really? Like, the only other life that you've actually experienced it in your dream. And you still don't feel like this could be a dream. What if the only way consciousness can have an experience is through dreaming? And some people will say, well, my dreams don't seem that persistent. Sometimes I could dream that I'm talking to my girlfriend, and then the next thing I'm talking to Jay-Z, and the next thing I'm talking to Beyonce, and the next thing I'm talking to my dog. Don't forget that you've been in this reality, this illusion, whatever it is, for a long time. I mean, time might not even be like real, but I mean, maybe this is constructed from what's familiar, right? And the more you remember things, the more real they become. What do I mean? If you remember that a stone is supposed to be like this, and you always remember that. Is this a stone? No, this is not even a stone. But if this was a stone, and you remember that the stone is supposed to be like this, maybe consciousness will continue to create a reality where stones are like this. Because you've seen a stone like this before, and you've remembered. What if reality is created from our memories that way? It's like it's created from what we already know. You see, so this reality is created from what we already know, and that is why it seemed physical and it seemed persistent. But dreams themselves, even though they were created from what we already know, the difference is that because dreams do not last for that long, what happens is that our brains wander, our minds wander. Like, if you got stuck in your dream for a very long time, your dream will actually become persistent because you'll be building on what you already know. So yes, there will be some things that won't be persistent at first, but then they will become persistent. Like, if you had a car that was green, and then tomorrow it's black, and then the next day it's orange. If you kept on remembering it to be black, it will eventually become black, and it will just be black the whole time because you remember it to be black. You see? So it wouldn't be persistent. Like, reality wouldn't be persistent at first until you remember something to be the case, and then it will be the case. And it does happen to me in this reality. There will be some things that don't seem very persistent, but at some point they will become persistent. Like, okay, this is what's true. Like, for an example, I'll remember someone's name to be, just giving an example, someone named Michael. I'll remember their name being John, right? And then one day they tell me that, no, I'm Michael. Like, no, you were always John. Like, now I'm Michael. And then start believing they're Michael and they're Michael. I'm not saying you're God. I just think that it's interesting to, try to figure out what is going on in this world. You cannot just live your life as if you know what is going on because, well, you do not know what is going on. You just like to tell yourself that you know. If you were in a dream right now, you'll tell yourself that you know. Isn't that interesting? If you were in a dream and someone told you you were in a dream, they'd be like, nah, I'm not in a dream. You know, what about scientists? You know, what about these physical objects that I'm seeing? No, I'm not in a dream. Dreams are not like this. You'll even tell the person that will be telling you that you're in a dream. If I was that person who's telling you that you're in a dream, you'll be telling me that, man, look around you, man. You cannot tell me this is a dream. Dreams are not supposed to be like this. Dreams are supposed to be like that. You know what I mean? That's how it works. If you are in a dream, you wouldn't believe that you are in a dream until you wake up. So if you were God, you would wake up one day and you realize that it was all a dream. You'd laugh at yourself. Oh, you did not want to sleep. You wouldn't want to sleep again. You'd be like, no way, I'll do that to myself again. That was something else. I mean, this is a weird experience, but it would be funny. Like, wow, so it was all a dream. Thank you all, guys.